Charles and Roy Gazamorad had talked about dedicating this trail or loop to Dave Henry. So I'd like to make a motion on this to dedicate the trail or loop to Dave.
I would actually like to make an amendment to the motion. As the motion sits right now, we are just agreeing to name a future trail. And those of us who know Dave Henry know that he was a man of action, sometimes acting with the first thought that came into his mind, which what is it that I can do for my community? So I think it's great that we name a trail after Dave Henry, but I would like to see an actual trail be built for Dave Henry. So I would ask that we amend the main motion to request staff to provide an RFP for construction on the Wood Trails project within the next month, so that we can actually have a project and a trail to name as opposed to a promise.
If I recall correctly, it must be germane to the original motion.
That is correct. I am suggesting that we ask staff to bring back an RFP so that when Mr. Henry's trail is named, we have a trail to dedicate as opposed to a promise. I met Dave Henry 4 years ago in his garage with a stack of cheese for his rescue beagles and tea that he had set up for us. When I first presented my idea for Wood Trails to him, he was skeptical, as Dave Henry was skeptical of a lot of new people he meets. But in our conversations, we talked about the importance of the trails to the community, what it means to the people in that neighborhood. And if you know Dave Henry, you know that he's never met a stranger. He was never afraid of striking up a conversation with people, and he was never afraid of sharing what was important to him. And what was important to him are those trails, not the concept of the trail, but the physicality of the trail. And my guiding light has always been, think about what it is that people want. They want something physical, they want something real. It's a connection. So I think that making this trail a reality, not a promise to name it, but motion, action to move it forward is what is important. So I'm asking for a concrete commitment on this council to move this project forward and bring forth a request for proposal to build this trail out so that we can truly honor Dave Henry in the way he would like to be honored, which is with action, not words.
Mayor Millman.
Thank you. I oppose the amendment, and here's why. We already have in the budget money to build out the trails. We don't have final design, so I think I think the amendment makes it onerous on a staff that is really, really working hard right now. I think it makes it more complicated than it needs to be, and I also think that if there is a change in what trail we're talking about or where that trail stops and starts, or how we do that, I think it's a little bit cleaner the way I propose it. So I can't support the amendment.
Councilmember Evans.
Just remind us, Mr. City Manager, we have already budgeted money for building out wood trails, and all we're waiting for are our development fees that are pending, correct?
The project right now, as it stands in the budget, has two pieces. We had kind of the initial hazard mitigation and some initial signage project, which was budgeted. I think that, off the top of my head, I don't have the budget book in front of me, it was about $65,000 if I remember right. And then on top of that, council budgeted for construction of the project, contingent on receipt of impact fees, which we haven't collected yet this year. But when we do that, we can start that process. That process, as council's mentioned, we'll need to start with final design of that project, which is not done yet. We've done the conceptual design for that project, but we haven't done all the bidding document or the design documents that would ultimately go into the bid package. So that would be the first step. And then design would follow, or construction would follow that.
And how much staff time is required to do an RFP of this nature?
If it's utilizing the on-call, then it can be relatively quick. It's still probably, Asha, a month to get the task order issued and put together. It's pretty straightforward what we're looking to do on the project.
Thank you. I think that Mr. Henry deserves all of the good feelings because he was just a great He was a great man. What I'm requesting is that we honor him with action. If this council doesn't have the gumption to do it, that's one thing. But to fall back and say, staff can't switch gears if we ask them to change priorities, I don't think that's a fair assessment. If we want something, we vote for it.
Councilmember Arndt.
I think it is disingenuous to say this is a issue of will, and more appropriate to say that this is an issue of being responsible with our funds as a city. I do not support the amendment because of that, but I do support the intention of dedicating a trail, and I do believe that as the park impact fees become available, we can have further conversation about how quickly we can move to make this a reality.
Second time, Councilmember Evans.
Thank you. Mr. Buchanan, are we still on track to get our park impact fees sometimes in the next 3 to 6 months, as far as you know?
We, at least for one of the development projects downtown, we're expecting to be issuing permits here imminently, as in this week. And so we should have park impact fees are paid at the time that those building permits are issued.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes, thank you. My brain is kind of hurting on this because I have known Dave for probably 20 years, and he was trying to get us off our talking and get action to our words. And so that's why I'm seconding and supporting this, because I know if we get down to it, if it's really not money, it's very common to start a project and then pay it back when the funds come in. So you just move money from one account to another. Standard accounting procedure to put it into the right account when the money comes in. So I don't see this as a big ask. The intent is to do something, not just to say we're going to name something. We're going to do something. Dave was a man of action and called us to action. And so maybe we need to stretch a little and do something.
Once again, Mr. City Manager, you mentioned that these funds were imminent, correct? The park impact fees?
Right. We should, if the permits that we anticipated are issued this week, we should have some amount of park impact fees shortly thereafter.
Okay. I would like to take a vote on this issue. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Evans?
No.
Councilmember Rubstello?
No.
Councilmember Best-Campbell?
Yes.
Mayor Millman?
No.
Councilmember Arndt?
No.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Randolph?
No. Back to the original amendment of dedicating this trail to Dave Henry. Can we take a second roll call vote on the original motion?
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Rubstello?
Yes.
Councilmember Best-Campbell?
Yes.
Mayor Millman?
Yes.
Councilmember Arndt?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Randolph?
Yes. Thank you so much for supporting Dave and all of his antics. Thank you for coming.